Unanimous consent request from the gentlelady from Georgia. Without objection. The gentleman from New Jersey is recognized for an amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have an amendment at the desk.
Clerk will report.
Amendment and the
Without
amendment.
objection, the amendment will be considered as read. The gentleman is recognized to explain his amendment.
I reserve point of order, Mr. Chairman.
Point of order is reserved by the gentleman from Maryland. I was looking for a napkin.
Mr. Chairman, I strongly agree, I do agree with this bill's core goal. We should be incentivizing states and cities to stop policies that let dangerous criminals go free after committing serious crimes. As a committee, we've gone around the country and we see where these problems are. We've seen when judges and magistrates and prosecutors have let people out. And, I agree with the gentleman from Georgia, that a judge should have some discretion. And if it's a very minor crime, no, we shouldn't be holding them in prison. But they were releasing people that were guilty of crimes that were violent, guilty of crimes over and over again, who were flight risks, and mothers and daughters and brothers and fathers and sisters and were murdered. And we saw them, we met them, we heard their testimony through the tears. It's wrong and it's unfair unto law-abiding citizens. That said, this bill is too broad. It sweeps in states like New Jersey, who I'd be the first to admit has a system that lacks in some ways. But while New Jersey has sharply reduced the use of cash bail, the state has not eliminated it. And it allows judges to retain the ability to detain dangerous individuals pre-trial. The distinction matters a lot. We have to do this surgically. We have to use a scalpel and not a sledgehammer. My amendment makes a narrow common sense fix. It ensures that states or jurisdictions that employ a risk-based bail system that includes pre-trial detention are not automatically stripped of burn-jag funding under this bill. Those burn-jag funds are critical. Those grants are critical. They are heavily relied upon by local law enforcement in my district and in every district throughout the United States of America. I have heard from the FOP, the PBA, the state troopers, and the list goes on. Real people doing a real job, good police officers. These are men who may not even always like what their state has done, but they should not be punished, and they want to keep their communities safe. If we cut off this funding, we make it actually harder for them, not easier for them, to do their jobs and keep New Jerseyans safe. This amendment preserves the bill intent to go after jurisdictions that have truly and fully, completely abandoned public safety, while avoiding the unintended consequences for law enforcement in states that maintain at least some meaningful safeguards. I urge all members to vote yes on the adoption of this amendment, and Mr. Chairman, I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Recognize the ranking member, and then I'll make a statement.
Mr. Chairman, this is the first time seeing it, and I'm wondering if the distinguished gentleman from New Jersey would yield to a few questions about it.
I will yield, yes.
As I understand it, the amendment establishes a carve-out essentially for New Jersey.
And I don't want to interrupt you right as you start. It is not just for New Jersey. This would affect some other states as well. States that do allow pretrial detention, states that do give the judge the right also clearly to do that. And in New Jersey, which happens to be my state, that right exists. It's not used often, but it is used. And I believe that's important because for states like that, I don't think that you should remove the burn JAG funding, which is really important.
Yeah. Well, and this is why we oppose the bill, because as you're saying, the JAG funding is extremely important for all of our communities and all of our jurisdictions. When you say it's not used that often, I'm afraid I don't understand the import of that statement. As I took it, this is New Jersey's system. New Jersey has moved away from cash bail and uses a risk-based bail system in every single case. Isn't that right?
That is correct. The system that they use is one that has allowances in it, though, for those areas that I just discussed. In other words, it allows you to detain people when you should. Look, this would all be good
Oh.
if we had good judges and good magistrates that did their job all the time.
I got
I'm
you.
talking around the country. People have been released over and over again that should be. And in those jurisdictions where they completely,
All right, you know what, I'm going to come back to you. Let me just reclaim my time so I can at least expound a little bit of where I am on this, and you can respond to it. It seems to me that we have proven well that the purpose of bail is to guarantee the appearance of the defendant at trial, to prevent flight risk, and to prevent any security risk that the person might pose to the community. In that case, whether the person is destitute and can't pay anything, or they're a multi-billionaire, or they're Jeffrey Epstein and they can put up the money easy, it should make no difference. So I don't understand why all of this fervor has been mobilized against cashless bail. That's not the issue. We should make sure that bail decisions are being based on the risks of the person to the community, or the risk that the person will hit the road and not show up in court. So I'm very drawn to the gentleman's amendment for New Jersey and any other states that might be in a similar posture, but it completely unravels the logic of the bill itself. Because the bill itself is attacking jurisdictions that have said they don't want bail to be a question of money and how wealthy you are or how poor you are. And so we're just mixing apples and oranges. You take that point off of the table and you're saying, well, yeah, we're not using wealth in any way, we're just using risk. Fine, let's do that. If we want to be imposing a federal straitjacket on all of the states to be doing something that we want them to do in this field and threatening them with a Godfather offer to cut off their JAG fund money, let's do it for making sure that they're using a risk-based system. But why are we targeting the ones who have decided that cash bail doesn't help? Yeah, so in other words, I just think the logic of your amendment is to dissolve the entire bill.
it is not, and it's clear in the way that I say it. It is focused, the bill would be focused, and I believe that was the sponsor's intent, on those jurisdictions that have been capricious and cavalier in the way they've just let out real bad folks. I don't know how else to say it, over and over again. You all were with us on many of these visits as we went around the country and actually interviewed people that had been harmed, killed, raped, beaten by individuals that had a clear history that they posed a risk and danger to the community,
Okay, just to
or
reclaim my
that
time
they
for a
were a
sec. So
flight
the
risk.
problem there is they're not paying attention to risk. The problem is not that they're failing to charge someone $50,000 or whatever. The point is they're not paying attention to risk. So how does this bill even help?
May I
the
answer
problem?
that?
Yes.
That is the point. So since they aren't paying attention to risk, and some of it doesn't enter into some of their systems at all, this bill is to ensure that risk is something that should be evaluated and considered, yet at the same time, if you have a system that is somewhat different than others, and there are numbers that are all throughout the country, that there should be room for those to still get that funding, as long as they're not, in plain English, letting bad people out over and over again. I guess you want me to yield back, right?
It's the gentleman's- the
Well,
gentleman's-
so
Actually, you want me to.
So you just Mr. Chairman, I really have to think about this one because,
Yeah, I hear you.
but obviously
I have thought about
I'm
it.
sympathetic to what the gentleman is saying, in jurisdictions that have gotten rid of cash bail but are using risk are doing the right thing from their perspective, and certainly a reasonable thing. But it does seem like a bit of self-pleading, because generally the bill is coming in like a sledgehammer against other jurisdictions, and that doesn't seem right. So I'm going to think about it. But thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.
Appreciate that 5-minute dialogue so we can think about it. The gentleman from New Jersey is a great member of this committee, does outstanding work as our chair of the Oversight Subcommittee. We appreciate that, appreciate him offering this amendment, but I think this does, as frankly, as the ranking member said, kind of unravels what the bill's trying to do. So I would oppose the amendment and appreciate the thoughtfulness that it was brought forward, appreciate the discussion that took place, but I think that I actually jotted down, completely unravels the objective of the legislation. So Let's, if gentlelady from California is recognized.
You know, this was an intriguing amendment, because as I was listening to my colleague from New Jersey talk about his system, and so to be clear, you're saying that New Jersey has implemented a risk-based system that you feel works.
And to be very clear, I don't feel that it always does work as well as it should. Full disclosure, and this is, you'll find this interesting, it was a Republican governor, you know his name, Chris Christie, when this system was put in place, and it was a very popular piece of legislation when it was done in New Jersey, had many Republican and Democratic supporters, the system that we have in New Jersey, and I'll wrap this up in a second. I had a lot of serious questions. I sat on the Budget Committee where this actually went through and had some concerns, and I think we could have done more and done a little better, but I don't think it's so bad that they shouldn't get the funding. It is the police that asked me for this.
Yeah, so I'm going to cut you off because it's my minutes, but
Yes.
I like what you said because, you know, obviously nothing is pure, but it sounds like more often than not, this risk-based system works. And, you know, we actually have a system like this in the liberal haven of San Francisco and also in the liberal bastion that is Los Angeles. And to your point, these systems work as well because you are integrating conditions of release, judicial discretion, and assessment tools. But I also am confused because it does seem like it would be a carve-out just for one state, and it does seem like the antithesis of what we just debated with the 5213, keep violent criminals off the streets. And why would it just be for one state or for other localities that enjoy this so that they can get the burn JAG funding, which I think we all agree is important. And to your point, it's law enforcement that is asking.
May I answer that real quickly?
About which part?
It isn't just for one state. There would be a number of states, and it is to ensure, the bill would still ensure that the money is used properly. And that's the point.
Yeah, but I think all of us want the monies that are given to these programs to be used
But they're not. I yield back.
well, but it really does fly in the face of the underlying bill. And so what's good for the goose is good for the gander. I think most law enforcement agencies are saying, hey, why get rid of this funding? That goes to support the courts, it goes to support prosecution, it goes to support mental health with our community-based partners that we're working with to make our communities more safe. It does all of the things that if you care about safer cities and communities, you would want. And so it should be funding that all states have the opportunity and the eligibility to enjoy. I think that's what sort of boggles my mind. I certainly am not one of those people that says, give the money only to California and don't give it to New Jersey. If New Jersey has some systems that are working, that have been voted on by the people.
Real quickly, I wouldn't say that either. And I
haven't yielded to you, sir. I actually wanted to yield the rest of my time to my ranking member, and then he can probably ask you the questions. I do like your orange tie, though.
Thank you very much, distinguished gentlelady from California. Look, first of all, the New Jersey system that was adopted by Governor Christie, the cashless bail, risk-based system adopted by Governor Christie, has been working as I understand it. There's an interesting report from the Brennan Center for Justice on bail reform and public safety on evidence from 33 different jurisdictions. I recommend it to everybody highly to check it out. But I mean, it seems to me that you know, and back to Mr. Van Drew, if you would for one second, when you say a risk-based bail system, when I got to law school in the middle of the 20th century, okay, in the 1980s, we were taught that bail was all about the risk of flight and the risk to other people in the meantime. You don't want people reoffending. And you don't want people disappearing. Okay, so is that the system that you mean, or did you mean something else by a risk-based bail system? Because that is what the bail system is. It's risk-based. It always has been.
That is a system I mean, still have some concerns with it on an objective level. They use an algorithm. That makes me nervous sometimes. I'm open to it. I'm all due disclosure. When that came forward at the urging of Governor Christie and others, bipartisan, in committee and on the floor, I voted for it. I voted for it to
Yeah.
give it a chance. I just have some concerns. There are other jurisdictions where it seems to me that over and over again, as I've said before, they're letting bad people out. And I
Well, yeah,
think
but and that can
that's-
happen under a
ideal
cash
legislation
system.
to me would
When
address
you say
that.
they're letting bad people out, let's try to have some analytical clarity about it. That's true under cash systems and cashless systems. There are always mistakes that happen in this direction or that direction, right? So,
I think it's worse under cashless systems, I do.
yeah. Okay, so I'm not sure whose time it is, but I'm happy to yield back, Mr.
The
Jones.
gentlelady's time has expired. Do any other members seek recognition?
We're on the amendment.
The question occurs on the amendment offered by the gentleman from New Jersey. Those in favor say aye. Those opposed say no. In the opinion of the chair, the noes have it and the amendment is not agreed to. A record vote is requested. The clerk will call the roll.